I do is I'm actually one of those field scientists who goes into the kind of, dirty world of wherever it may be. So I actually just got back from the low Arctic 2.5 weeks ago. I have bite marks all over my face to prove that I was there from the bugs. It was horrible. But I go to different places on the Earth that approximate different planetary features from other planets, asteroids, and so forth. So, for example, this site in the Arctic, it was an impact crater. We know very little about it because it's very hard to get to, and it's just over 200 million years old. And we're studying it because it's an interesting feature in comparison to another site that we work at in Idaho, where there are craters as well, but these were formed by volcanic activities, and they look very similar when you look at them from space. We get to go and take a look at these two features and figure out what are the differences. We know that they were formed differently, but they're hard. Those kinds of differences are hard to resolve from space. And so we're doing real science. We have a bevy of senior researchers, graduate students, postdocs, and so forth. But what the fun part for me is, as well as that, is that I get to go into the field with exploration scientists. And these are people that are using our field activities as kind of a leverage by which to learn about how to do science, field science, in extreme environment.
How many of you have heard that phrase used before, new space and old space? And I want to just peel back a layer and understand what exactly that is. I grew up, my father worked for forever and ever for North American Rockwell, where they built Apollo, and I remember seeing command modules, and I'm pretty sure that's old space. It's both this definition and this attitude that space is accessible for everyone. And our founders actually built the company with the idea that we want to go to space and we want to take everyone else with us. Old space was driven by the government. New space is driven by private enterprise. The lines can get blurred as well. I mean, old space, you typically think of, Honeywell and Boeing and Lockheed and Raytheon. But even now, Boeing is doing some new space type of things. They just got a contract to deliver crew to ISS. Now, this is a NASA contract, but Boeing has invested their own money into this. So it's also, it's that by definition, but it's also an attitude. It's also this idea that space is accessible to everyone. If you think of the people, FAA calls them spaceflight participants, who are going to be flying on these commercial vehicles, anyone can do it. Whereas before, someone with my vision can go into space. You're not limited to, like I said, this one level of, this criteria, let's say.
Important, but really they just didn't have the business case to stand the test of time. I think now you have more new space companies focused on the product. So it's less about the platform, and it's the product and who's going to use the product. And hopefully time will tell that you'll have more success with that. So it more jives with what's going on in the world, because we're all about big data and the cloud and all of this. So it fits with that better, is that you have all this information from a satellite and now people can get at it and do stuff with it. And so the new space companies kind of focus on that. The old space companies, it's very much spec oriented and top down, and everything focused down to the minutia so that no mistakes can happen. Primarily these are government programs, they're billions of dollars. You do not have a risk tolerance like you do for the new space. So they're very different business models. Both crowds are really smart people, and both have very successful programs. So I think time will tell, and there'll probably be some sort of middle ground that evolves, but I don't think we'll see these big new space flare-outs like we have in the past. I think it's more of a critical mass that's here to stay, but I don't think I think the companies that have succeeded the most have actually found a way to take the smarts and all that has been invested in old space and leverage that into new space. SpaceX, which we all know, perfect example. You know, they have tons of government money from NASA, but they're also a privately funded thing. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.